Hey guys, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using the Mama Elephant Carnival cupcakes, the Mama Elephant Carnival toppers, and the Echo Park Party Time 6x6 paper pad. I love the color palette in this one. So I'm starting out with my Copic coloring, and I've stamped out my images in Memento Tuxedo Black ink on some Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock. And I'm going to start with my first cupcake liner. So I'm using BG11, BG13, and BG15, and I'm going darkest to lightest. So I laid down that BG15 first and then blended it out with the BG13, and then I'm leaving the BG11 for my highlight at the top. I'm just going to go back over those colors a second time to just intensify them and really smooth that transition out. And that looks much better to me. I did get a little bit outside the line, so I'll just grab my colorless blender and touch that up. Just push that ink back into the colored area. And then I'll leave that to dry, and I'll work on that again a little bit later. I don't want to oversaturate it and cause more bleeding. For the other two cupcake liners, I'm using RV21, RV23, and RV25. And just starting with the RV25, darkest to lightest again, putting in my shadow at the bottom of the cupcake liner. And then I'll blend that out with the RV23 and finish with the RV21 for my lightest. And I colored the second one as well up there in the top right corner, but I ended up not using it, so I'm not going to go ahead and show that on the video. No need to make you watch unnecessary coloring. Plus it's the same exact as this one here. So I will also take those same three shades to color in the little flower here. I'm using the RV25 for the very center, and then I'm going to use the RV23 as my shadow for the outer portion, and then just fill in with the RV21. And then I'm just adding a little touch more of that RV23 just to make it stand out a little bit better. For the leaves on the flower, I'm using YG05 and YG07. Using that YG07 where the shadows would be, where the flower overlaps the leaves and the leaves overlap each other, and then filling in with the YG05. So the cupcake on the left, I wanted to make a black forest cupcake because that's my husband's favorite. So I wanted the bottom part to be chocolate. So I pulled out E44, E47, and E49. And I'm adding a bit of shadow at the bottom with the E49, and then also right at the top where the next layer, which will be cherry filling, is going to be just kind of oozing over the edges, so it would cast a little shadow. I'm blending out a little bit with that E47, which is a nice rich chocolatey brown color, and then filling in with the E44, just blending that all nicely together, giving it that nice highlight in the center. So the story behind this card is right next to the Paint Your Own Pottery studio where I work, a cupcake bakery is actually opening tomorrow. So while they have been moving in and testing their ovens and stuff, they've been bringing us cupcakes to sample. Now, unfortunately, I'm diabetic, so I haven't been able to eat them, but it was such a nice gesture that we wanted to make them some coffee mugs, and I wanted to make them a card that we could sign from all the girls at work and take over to them just to thank them and welcome them to the neighborhood. So this is actually going to them tomorrow, and the colors I chose are based on their logo. So their logo is like aqua and teal and hot pink. So I tried to incorporate a lot of those colors as well. And the chocolate cupcake because, well, who doesn't love chocolate? So for the cherry pie filling, I used R22, R24, and R29, and again just went darkest to lightest. I'm going to use those same three shades on the little cherry down at the bottom, just leaving that top little bit for the highlight. And then I'll flick on a little bit more R29 just to emphasize the shadow underneath there, and the R24 to blend it. The top layer of a Black Forest cupcake is traditionally whipped cream, so for that I'm using BG quadruple zero, BG triple zero, and BG 10. I also wanted to do the other cupcake top to be whipped cream, so I'm going to color them both with the same 3 shades. So I'm using that BG 10 for the shadows, and then I blend it out with the triple zero, and then finish with the quadruple zero, and then I also I'm going to add a colorless blender in just a bit, but first I'm going to color the whipped cream on the other one. And for this one, because it's a smaller space, I just used the BG 10 and then I switched straight to the BG quadruple zero. And now I'm adding in that colorless blender to just knock back the blue a bit and make sure that it still looks white. So originally my plan was to have 3 cupcakes on the front of the card, but I ended up not having space for that, so I used only 2. Also, originally I was going to stamp out the cupcake liners in dye ink. That's why you see those 2 blue liners stamped there. But in the end, I didn't really like the look. They were a little bit flat, and I wanted something a little better shaded. So now I just added some chocolate sprinkles to the Black Forest cupcake by going back to my E47. And now I'm going to color in this other cupcake topper. I wanted it to be vanilla, so I'm using the E50, E51, and E53. I just started with that E53 very lightly. I didn't want too much of that, but just a touch in the shadowed areas. And then I blended that with the E51 and then the E50. And again, I left the center to just knock back with my colorless blender to make it really soft. I wanted a very pale golden brown. Just adding a few extra flicks of that E50 while the colorless blender is still wet so it'll blend very smoothly. And then I decided that that whipped cream swirl on the right was just a little too bland looking for me, so I decided to go back to my R24 and just color in the little swirls. Thought maybe it could be a little strawberry sauce mixed into the whipped cream or something like that. Just super quick coloring with that one shade just because the space is so small. And now I'll die cut all these out with the matching dies. So the Mama Elephant Carnival Toppers has some really great sentiments in it, and I wanted to feature one of them on my focal panel. So I'm stamping it out with some Lawn Fawn Merman ink, and I'm using my Misty. And you can see that I had some user error there. I had my magnet too close to the stamp, so I got a terrible first impression. But that's the great thing about the Misty, because the stamp is still perfectly aligned. So I was able to ink it up a second time, and then actually a third time, and press that really well into place. And that time I got a really clear and bold sentiment that I was happy with. I think this sentiment is so fun, and I hope the Cupcake Bakery owners really get a kick out of it. I wanted to trim my sentiment down a little bit, so I'm taking the Avery L Finish Frames die. This is part of a set, and I'm just going to die cut that sentiment with it justified all the way up to the top so that I have room for my cupcakes underneath, and I'll just run that through my Cuttlebug, and you can see that great detail that it has all along the edges. So now I'm just going to take my cupcake die cuts and stack them up so I can see how they're going to fit on the card. That little cherry stem was going to get in the way of the words, so I had to just turn it a bit so that it would fit right underneath the sentiment. And this is where I decided that instead of having 2 cupcakes with pink liners, I was going to just combine those into one so that I would have a total of 2 cupcakes on the card because I didn't think I was going to be able to fit all 3, and I kind of liked this layered look once I saw it together. It kind of matches the height and the layers of the Black Forest cupcake a little better anyway this way. So now I'm just taking some Tombow Mono multi-glue and adhering those die cuts. And then I'll just hold that up on the card to make sure the height is right so that if it wasn't, I could adjust it since the glue was still wet, but they ended up being just right. So then I took some Scotch 3M foam tape and added that to the back of the cupcakes so that I could pop them up off the card and give them a little bit of dimension. So I'll just overlap them a little bit and make sure I have them perfectly placed under that sentiment. And then when I'm happy with that, I'll just press them down. And then I'll take the little flower that I colored and die cut, and I'm just trying to see where it would go best on the card. And I ended up deciding that I liked it as an embellishment on the cupcake with the pink wrapper. So I'm just going to take a little Tombow Mono and glue that right over top of the whipped cream swirl. And then I'll just take a tiny little piece of foam adhesive and pop that right under the leaf to just make sure that it's well supported. For my card base, I'm taking a piece of MFT's Pink Lemonade cardstock, which is scored and folded to a standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card. It's in the portrait orientation, which means it's 5 1/2 tall by 4 1/4 wide. And I'm just gluing my first piece of pattern paper flat to the card. I thought this cupcake print would be perfect. And then I'm just going to take these other two prints and I kind of want to layer them a little bit in a wonky position. And I wanted the pink to be sticking out on the opposite side from the pink cupcake wrapper, if that made any sense, just to bring that color over to the other side of the card a little bit more. So I'm adding a little bit of glue to the centers of those papers so that I can really adjust them how I need to. And then I'm just seeing if I have that where I want it. The pink is really sticking out on all edges, but it was a little bit more on the right side, which I thought balanced out the cupcake with the pink liner on the left side of the focal panel, if that makes sense. So I added a little more foam tape to the back of that, and I'm just going to make sure that that's straight, and then I'll push that down into place. And there's how we're looking so far. For the inside of our card, I wanted to stamp another one of the sentiments from the Carnival Toppers set. So I'm taking some Lawn Fawn Wild Rose ink and I'm just inking that up. And I'm going to push that down into place. And again, I just did not get a good impression, so I'm going to ink that up a second time. And then just make sure that my card is back in the corner. Wasn't quite where it should be. And then I'll just press that down into place. And I also did include the flower from the pink wrapper cupcake from the front, just to kind of carry that onto the inside. So I stamped that a third time, and again, I was much happier with that. It was a nice bold sentiment. So to finish things up, I wanted to add a bit of sparkle. So I grabbed my favorite stickles, the crystal stickles, and I'm just going to add a little bit here and there. So starting on the cherry and the flower embellishment, just kind of adding dabs of it and then using the tip of the nozzle to kind of just push it around and get it where I want it to go. I don't want to overload it, but I definitely want to have some nice accents. So I added it to the stripes of the whipped cream, and I'm adding it to the bottom of the cherry pie filling, and also to both cupcake wrappers. I feel like glitter and cupcakes go hand in hand because it kind of almost looks like that crystallized sugar. I'll hold that up to the light so you guys can see how much that sparkles and shines. I think it's even prettier in real life. And that's going to complete our card for today. I hope the Cupcake Bakery owners really enjoy it, and I hope they feel welcome, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video too. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and you can always leave me a comment. I read everyone and they mean so much. Here's a couple extra videos you may also be interested in, and you can always click on my photo to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye-bye.